The Galactic Federation was a vast and powerful union, made up of many species from different parts of the universe. These species had long maintained control over the stars, believing they were the rightful rulers of space. They had watched from afar as humanity, a relatively young species, grew rapidly. But now, the Federation saw something they could not ignore. A new power was rising, one that could threaten their dominance. It started with a secret meeting on the Federation's capital planet, a world covered in towering cities and advanced technology. The Federation's highest leaders, representatives from the most influential species, gathered in a large chamber. The air was tense as they discussed the unexpected rise of human technology. The humans had developed faster than light travel, built advanced defense systems, and even started exploring other planets. "The humans are a threat," said one of the leaders, his voice low and grave. "If they are allowed to continue, they will soon have the ability to challenge the power of the Federation. We must act before they become too strong." The others nodded in agreement. Many of them had seen the reports. Humans were not only developing new weapons and technologies, but were also making alliances with other species in the galaxy. It was clear that humanity's ambitions reached far beyond their own planet. "Declare war," said another leader, this one a tall, armored figure from a species known for their advanced weaponry. "We cannot risk their growing influence. We must stop them before they reach the stars." The decision was unanimous. The Galactic Federation would declare war on Earth. Back on Earth, humanity was unaware of the looming threat. Life was continuing as usual. People were focused on their daily routines, unaware that in the far corners of the galaxy, powerful alien leaders had made the choice to eliminate them. The United Nations, the governing body of Earth, had no reason to suspect that war was coming. The last major conflict on Earth had ended long ago, and peace had been the norm for generations. But one day, everything changed. News spread quickly across every news outlet. "The Galactic Federation declares war on Earth," the headline read. It was a shock. No one had seen it coming. People turned to their leaders for answers, but the government was just as surprised as the public. "We do not know why they are declaring war on us," President Adams said in a brief statement to the world. "We are gathering all available information and will respond accordingly. For now, we urge calm." Across the globe, panic began to spread. Many people could not believe it. How could such a powerful organization from another galaxy suddenly choose to attack Earth? The Federation had sent a message to Earth's leaders, but it was a simple declaration of war. There were no explanations, no negotiations. They simply demanded that humanity surrender or face the consequences. Some experts speculated that humanity's rapid progress in technology had made the Federation feel threatened. Others wondered if there was something specific about Earth that made them a target. But all of this was just guesswork. No one had any real answers. In secret, military leaders around the world began making preparations. The United Nations called an emergency summit to discuss the situation. The room was filled with people from every corner of the Earth. Generals, scientists, politicians, all trying to figure out what to do. It was a time of confusion, but also a time of action. They knew they had to do something, but they had no idea what that something should be. "We have no idea what we're up against," General Blake, the head of the Earth Defense Council, said. "But we can't sit around waiting for them to attack. We need to prepare, and we need to prepare fast." Behind closed doors, a group of the world's top scientists and military leaders had been working for years on secret projects. No one outside of this group knew what they had been working on, but as tensions rose, it became clear that humanity's secret preparations were about to come into play. Meanwhile, the first alien ships began making their way toward Earth. They were enormous, their sleek designs unlike anything humanity had ever seen. They were fast, too, capable of traveling across the galaxy in a fraction of the time it would take human ships. The Federation's fleets were on their way, but it would take them a few weeks to reach Earth. For the people of Earth, those weeks were filled with uncertainty. The question on everyone's mind was simple. How could humans possibly defend themselves against an entire galaxy of enemies? What chance did they have against beings who had been traveling through space for centuries, with technology far beyond anything humans had ever dreamed of? As the alien ships grew closer, the people of Earth waited, uncertain of what the future held. Would the Federation's fleet destroy them, or would humanity somehow find a way to fight back? Little did the aliens know, the humans were not as unprepared as they thought. As the days passed, the shock of the Federation's declaration of war still lingered on Earth. People continued to question why the Galactic Federation had chosen to target them. Earth's leaders had little information to offer, and the tension in the air was thick. However, amidst the confusion and panic, something unexpected began to happen. Humanity, for all its flaws, was known for its resilience. In the face of challenges, humans had always managed to rise above, adapt, and survive. And now, with the galaxy seemingly against them, humanity would once again show its strength. Behind closed doors, the world's most brilliant minds were working together. The United Nations called for an emergency meeting, gathering experts from every country to discuss the growing crisis. General Blake, who had led Earth's defense forces for many years, stood at the front of the room, his face serious but determined. "We cannot afford to wait for their attack," he said, looking at the leaders from around the world. "We need to act now, or we may never have a chance." His words were met with nods of agreement. Earth had no knowledge of what the Galactic Federation's ships looked like, or how powerful their weapons were. But there was one thing Earth had that the Federation did not: time. In the years leading up to this moment, Earth's top scientists and engineers had been working on a number of secret projects. These projects, funded and developed under the guise of peaceful exploration, were far more advanced than anything the Federation could have imagined. One of the most important was a series of defensive technologies designed specifically to protect Earth from external threats. It wasn't just military strength that Earth relied on. It was the human ability to think outside the box. Human creativity, resourcefulness, and determination were the true weapons they had in their arsenal. The first step was simple. Earth needed to make contact with its allies. While the Galactic Federation may have seen humanity as a small, unimportant species, there were others who had been watching Earth's progress with growing interest. These allies, though not as powerful as the Federation, had their own reasons for wanting to prevent the Federation from expanding further into the galaxy. One of these allies was the Quilorians, a peaceful species with advanced energy technology. They had been secretly observing humanity for years, and they had developed a deep respect for the human ability to innovate. The Quilorians were more than willing to share their technology with Earth, helping to strengthen its defenses. Meanwhile, back on Earth, General Blake and his team were working tirelessly to prepare for the worst. They had no idea how powerful the Federation's ships were, but they couldn't afford to take any chances. Earth's military forces began to fortify key positions, preparing for an eventual invasion. The secret defense systems, which had been kept under wraps for years, were activated. The most important of these systems was an advanced energy shield that surrounded Earth's atmosphere. This shield, when fully activated, could block even the most powerful laser blasts, rendering enemy ships unable to attack directly from space. It was a game changer. But the shield was not perfect. It had limits. It could only withstand a certain number of hits before it would need to recharge. As the alien fleets drew nearer, humanity's response was beginning to take shape. The world's military forces, united as never before, began training together, sharing knowledge and strategies. Earth's soldiers, while inexperienced in intergalactic warfare, were quick learners. They knew they had one chance to survive, and they were determined to make it count. General Blake had one goal in mind: delay the aliens long enough to force them into negotiations. If Earth could prove that it was not an easy target, perhaps the Federation would rethink their strategy. A direct confrontation would be disastrous, but a show of strength might buy humanity some time. The time to act was quickly approaching. Earth had only a few days before the alien ships arrived in orbit. The pressure was mounting, but amidst it all, there was a quiet sense of determination. People across the planet were starting to believe that they might just stand a chance. Humanity had always found a way to survive, no matter how difficult the circumstances, and this time they were not going to simply surrender. In the final hours before the Federation's fleet arrived, Earth's defense systems were ready. The energy shields were fully operational, and Earth's military was standing by. But there was one more thing they needed: the element of surprise. Earth was not going to let the Federation know what it was capable of until the very last moment. The alien fleets, confident in their superiority, continued their journey toward Earth, unaware that they were about to face an unexpected resistance. What they didn't know was that humanity's hidden strength would soon be revealed. As Earth prepared for the coming storm, one thing became clear: the Federation had made a terrible mistake. They had underestimated the one thing they should have feared most about humanity: their ability to fight back, no matter the odds. The countdown had begun. Earth's military and defense systems were in place, and every nation was on high alert. The alien fleets were only a few days away from reaching the planet. People across the world watched the skies, uncertain of what the future held. Would humanity survive the coming war, or would this be the end? General Blake stood in his command center, studying the map of Earth's defense lines. The energy shields that protected the planet were strong, but they could only withstand so much. Every member of the defense team knew that their job was to delay the alien forces long enough for Earth's last hope, human ingenuity, to work its magic. If they could just keep the Federation's fleet occupied for long enough, they might stand a chance. "General, we've received new information from our allies," said Captain Hayes, a young officer with a sharp mind. She handed him a data pad showing the latest communications from the Colorians, Earth's new allies. "They've provided us with advanced technology that could turn the tide in our favor. The energy shields will be enhanced with their power sources. It won't make the shields indestructible, but it will give us more time to hold off the invasion." Blake nodded thoughtfully. This was the break they needed. Get those upgrades into place immediately. We don't have much time. In the days that followed, the energy shields were upgraded with the help of Colorian technology. Earth's forces, though still untested in combat with an alien race, were now better equipped than ever. The shields had a greater capacity to absorb damage, and Earth's weapon systems were enhanced with new energy-based weapons that could target enemy ships in orbit. But the most important upgrade wasn't something that could be seen with the eye. The humans had learned how to use their new technology in ways the Federation never expected. Earth's leaders had decided to keep their most powerful weapon a secret. It was a daring move, one that could either save them or doom them all. As the alien ships drew closer, the tension on Earth grew. News outlets across the world continued to report on the impending attack, but there was a quiet optimism that had started to replace the panic. People believed in their leaders and their military. They knew that if anyone could find a way to survive, it was humanity. Then the moment finally arrived. The first wave of alien ships entered Earth's orbit. Their massive ships, shaped like smooth, dark stones, glided through space with terrifying speed. They were not just a few ships. The Federation had sent an armada. Thousands of ships, all bearing the mark of the Galactic Federation, had arrived. As soon as the ships entered range, Earth's energy shields activated. The atmosphere shimmered as the invisible barrier came to life, surrounding the planet. The first alien ship fired its weapons at Earth, sending beams of destructive energy toward the shield. The ground shook as the impact hit, but the shield held strong. Blake stood at his command center, watching the holographic display of the alien fleet. His heart raced, but he kept his focus. The first battle had begun, and Earth had made its stand. "General, we've received a report from the outer defense line," Captain Hayes said urgently. "The aliens are launching smaller attack ships. They're trying to break through the shields." Blake cursed under his breath. Prepare the countermeasures. We need to stop those ships before they get too close. Earth's military had been preparing for this moment, and now it was time to see how well their defenses would hold up. Anti-ship missiles and energy cannons fired from Earth's surface, targeting the incoming alien ships. The first few ships were destroyed almost immediately, their shields not strong enough to withstand Earth's counterattack. But more were coming, and they were relentless. On the ground, the world's military forces were also preparing for ground combat. Though the Federation had no intention of invading the planet's surface yet, Earth's soldiers knew that the aliens would not stop until they had conquered everything. Every city, every country, every military base was prepared for the worst. Soldiers trained in every possible tactic, and civilians were ready to evacuate if the worst came to pass. Meanwhile, in space, the alien fleets continued their assault. The Federation's ships were far larger and more advanced than anything Earth had ever encountered, but the aliens were underestimating one crucial fact. They did not know the humans' true potential. The Federation commanders, confident that they were about to crush the humans, made their first mistake. They thought they had Earth cornered, but they had not counted on the one thing humans did best: turning the tables at the last moment. The surprise weapon, hidden from the Federation's sensors, was activated. It was a satellite-based weapon, designed by humanity's brightest minds, powered by Quilorian energy. The weapon, built in secrecy, harnessed an immense energy beam capable of disintegrating even the toughest of alien ship hulls. It was the last line of defense, and the Federation had no idea it existed. The weapon fired. In an instant, the beam of energy shot from the satellite into space, striking one of the Federation's flagship vessels. The ship exploded in a brilliant flash of light, its remains scattering into space. The Federation fleet was stunned, their most powerful ship destroyed in an instant. They had underestimated the humans, and now they were paying the price. General Blake watched as the enemy fleet began to retreat. It wasn't over, not yet, but Earth had just delivered a crushing blow. The Federation was no longer as confident as it had been. They had expected an easy victory, but humanity had shown them that underestimating Earth was a fatal mistake. And that was just the beginning. The Federation's retreat was brief. Although they had lost one of their most powerful ships, the alien fleet quickly regrouped. Their commanders were not easily discouraged. Instead of falling back, they adjusted their strategy and prepared for another assault on Earth. General Blake knew the Federation wouldn't give up so easily. The first victory was just a small battle in what was sure to be a much larger war. But Earth's defenses were far from ready to take on the full might of the Federation's entire fleet. The question now was how to keep the upper hand. Time was critical. The enemy ships were still large and powerful, and Earth's resources were limited. Blake called for an emergency briefing with his commanders. The situation was dire, but they had already shown the aliens that humanity was capable of more than just defense. Blake was determined to use this new advantage to the fullest. "We've bought ourselves a little time," Blake said, his voice steady but urgent. "But the Federation will be back in force. We need to strengthen our position and prepare for the next wave." Captain Hayes stepped forward. "General, I've been reviewing the data from the Quilorian technology. They've offered us another weapon, a type of energy amplifier. It could boost our energy shield even further, but it'll drain our resources quickly. We need to decide if it's worth the risk." Blake thought for a moment. The energy amplifier could give them more time, but the drain on resources could make the shield vulnerable later. Still, they had no choice. If the Federation regrouped and attacked with everything they had, Earth might not survive without it. "Make it happen," Blake ordered. "We'll use the amplifier as long as we can, but we need to start thinking long-term too." As Hayes made arrangements to activate the amplifier, Blake turned his attention to the rest of the world. Humanity had come together like never before, and now it was time for every nation to do its part. The war was not just the responsibility of Earth's military. Every person, every country, had to be involved in the fight for survival. At the same time, the Federation was not just focused on Earth's defenses. Their command ships began to relay new orders, orders that made it clear that they were still underestimating the humans. They thought they could wear Earth down, break their spirit with another attack. But the Federation did not understand that the human will to fight was something that couldn't be easily crushed. As Earth's defenses continued to strengthen, Earth's military and scientists worked together, creating new weapons and technologies to counter the Federation's massive ships. In hidden labs around the world, human ingenuity was on full display. Weapons designed to disable the alien ships, rather than destroy them outright, were developed. These weapons could weaken the Federation's shields, making their ships more vulnerable to attack. But there was one thing that Blake and his team were focused on above all: the Federation's leaders. General Blake knew that if they could destroy or capture the Federation's top commanders, it could break the will of the entire fleet. The Federation was not a united front. It was held together by fear, and the loss of their commanders could cause that fear to turn inward. The decision was made. A team of elite soldiers would infiltrate the Federation's flagship and attempt to capture or eliminate their leaders. The mission was dangerous and could result in a direct confrontation with the most powerful alien military in the galaxy. But Blake knew it was the only way to end the war quickly. Meanwhile, the Federation was preparing their own counterattack. They had learned from their previous mistakes and were now deploying new weapons that Earth's military was not prepared for. Massive ships equipped with advanced lasers and energy disruptors appeared in Earth's orbit, threatening to overwhelm the planet's defenses. The new Federation ships were faster and more powerful, and they made it clear that they were ready for a fight. They fired their weapons, testing Earth's defenses, and the massive energy beams sent shockwaves through Earth's atmosphere. The shields held for the moment, but the strain was becoming evident. General Blake stood at the command center, watching the flickering holographic images of the alien fleet. His mind raced. The situation was rapidly becoming more dangerous, and the Federation was not going to give up. But they had underestimated humanity before, and they would do so again. The next few hours would determine the outcome of the war. As Earth's forces prepared for what was sure to be a fierce battle, General Blake's thoughts turned to the soldiers on the ground and the civilians who were depending on them to protect their homes. They had made it this far, and they could not fail now. "I want every available unit ready for deployment," Blake ordered. "This is the final stand. We hold them off here, and we win." All around him, soldiers and officers moved with purpose, preparing for the fight of their lives. Earth's defenses were stronger than ever, but the Federation's counterattack would test humanity in ways they had never been tested before. As the Federation ships loomed large in Earth's orbit, the humans were ready to show the galaxy just what they were capable of. The Federation may have thought they could crush Earth in a matter of days, but they had learned, too late, that underestimating humanity's will to fight was a mistake they would never make again. And so the final battle began. The final battle had begun, and Earth's military was ready. The Federation's fleet, now fully regrouped and stronger than ever, hovered ominously in orbit above the planet. The energy shields that protected Earth shimmered in the sky, but the Federation was not going to be easily stopped. They had more advanced technology, more firepower, and they knew that Earth's resistance would only last for so long. General Blake stood in the heart of the command center, watching the holographic display of the alien fleet. He could feel the weight of the moment. Earth had one last chance to prove its strength. There would be no second chances. "Report," he said to Captain Hayes, his voice steady despite the tension in the air. Hayes stood at attention. "The new weapons are ready, General. Our forces are positioned and waiting for the order to engage. The upgraded shields are holding, but we're starting to see signs of strain. If we don't act soon, the Federation will breach our defenses." Blake nodded. "We won't wait for them to attack. We hit them first. Prepare the offensive." The plan was simple. Earth's military would launch a full-scale assault on the Federation's flagship. They couldn't afford to play defense any longer. Blake knew that if they could destroy the command ship, they would deal a devastating blow to the entire alien fleet. Without their leaders, the Federation would lose its cohesion. It was a risky move, but it was the only option left. As the command center buzzed with activity, Blake's thoughts turned to his soldiers. They were the ones who would be on the front lines, risking their lives for the future of the planet. He knew they were ready. The training, the preparation, and the will to survive had all led to this moment. Humanity was ready to fight for its existence. "We move out in 5, Blake ordered. The countdown had begun. The first wave of human fighters launched into space, their engines roaring to life as they shot toward the Federation's massive ships. The Federation didn't expect an immediate offensive from Earth. They thought humanity would hunker down and wait for them to strike. But they had underestimated the humans once again. The human fleet surged forward, launching missiles and energy blasts toward the enemy. The Federation responded, sending smaller ships to intercept the attack. But Earth's forces were prepared. Their new energy-based weapons cut through the alien ships with ease, destroying them one by one. For a few moments, it seemed as if Earth had gained the upper hand. But the Federation wasn't going to back down. The larger ships began to fire their massive energy beams at Earth's defenses, and the ground shook as the blasts hit the shields. The energy beams were powerful enough to send shockwaves through the atmosphere, but Earth's shields held strong, absorbing the impact and protecting the planet from the full force of the attack. But the Federation wasn't finished. Their flagship, a massive vessel surrounded by smaller ships, moved into position above Earth's cities. It was a clear signal that the final assault had begun. Blake knew that this would be the hardest part of the battle. The Federation's flagship was heavily protected by an array of defensive shields and weapons. They would need to find a way to break through those defenses if they were going to win. As Earth's military forces closed in on the flagship, Blake's thoughts were clear. He had always believed in humanity's ability to overcome any obstacle, but this was different. This was the ultimate test. The fate of Earth was hanging in the balance. "Deploy the special teams," Blake ordered. A team of elite soldiers, specially trained for deep space combat, boarded advanced assault shuttles. They were the ones who would board the Federation's flagship and try to disable its defenses from the inside. It was a dangerous mission, but the soldiers were ready. They were determined to succeed, no matter the cost. The shuttles launched into space, speeding toward the Federation's flagship. As they got closer, the sheer size of the alien vessel became even more intimidating. It was a giant floating fortress, its surface covered in weapons and shields. The shuttles were small compared to the massive ship, but they had one advantage: human determination. As the shuttles closed in, the Federation fired their weapons, attempting to destroy the incoming assault. But the human soldiers were quick, dodging and weaving through the enemy fire. They reached the flagship and began to board, launching an attack on the ship's main entrance. Inside the flagship, the Federation's commanders were preparing for the final strike. They believed they had Earth cornered, but they didn't know that the humans had one more trick up their sleeve. The assault team fought their way through the ship, disabling critical systems and creating openings in the defenses. It was a brutal and intense fight, but the soldiers pressed on, determined to reach the heart of the Federation's command center. If they could disable the ship's core, they would end the war once and for all. As the soldiers reached the central command area, they encountered fierce resistance. The Federation commanders had gathered their elite guards, and a brutal firefight ensued. But the humans, fueled by their desire to protect their planet, fought with everything they had. In the end, it was human ingenuity and determination that won the day. The soldiers breached the central command room and managed to disable the ship's core, causing the flagship to fall silent. The alien fleet, now leaderless, began to retreat. Blake watched from Earth as the Federation's ships slowly turned away. The victory had been won, not just by Earth's military might, but by the human spirit. The Federation had underestimated humanity, and now they were paying the price. The battle was over. Earth had survived. The galaxy would never forget the day humanity stood against impossible odds and emerged victorious. The aftermath of the battle was nothing short of extraordinary. Earth's military forces had achieved the unthinkable. The Federation's once mighty fleet, leaderless and disorganized, retreated from Earth's orbit, leaving behind a planet that was battered but alive. The victory was a triumph of human will, ingenuity, and resilience. But the question on everyone's mind was, what now? General Blake stood in the command center, staring at the holographic displays of the retreating Federation ships. The threat was far from over, but the immediate danger had passed. His heart raced as he processed the events of the past few hours. The mission had been successful, but at what cost? The Federation had been forced to retreat, but they had not been destroyed. Blake knew that the alien empire was vast, and their forces would eventually regroup. Blake was interrupted by the voice of Captain Hayes. "General, the Federation ships are withdrawing, but their retreat is not without a plan. They've left behind a few ships near the outer edge of our system. We believe they're waiting for reinforcements." Blake nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. "So, the war is not over, not yet." "No, sir," Hayes replied. "But we've bought ourselves time. The Federation is shaken. Their leaders have been taken out, and their fleet is in disarray. We need to act quickly if we want to capitalize on this." Blake took a deep breath. This was their moment. The Federation had underestimated humanity, but Earth's forces had proven that they could fight back. However, the battle had been a heavy one. Cities had been damaged, lives lost, and many were still recovering from the shock of the war. The global economy was in disarray, and it would take years to rebuild. But Earth had shown its strength, and now the rest of the galaxy would take notice. "We need to press the advantage," Blake said firmly. "If the Federation wants a war, we'll give them one, but we'll do it on our terms." Back at the military bases, Earth's soldiers were celebrating the victory. But Blake knew that celebrations would be short-lived. The threat of a Federation counterattack still loomed large. The next steps would be critical. The Federation, despite their retreat, had not given up. They were a relentless force, and Blake knew that the alien empire would not take kindly to the loss of their flagship. The Federation was vast, and they had plenty of resources at their disposal. It was only a matter of time before they would try to regroup and strike back. As the days passed, Earth's forces made preparations for the next phase of the war. The first priority was to rebuild Earth's defenses. The energy shields had held up, but they had taken a severe toll on the planet's resources. New technologies were being developed to strengthen the shields, and the military was working to improve the weapons used in the final assault. Blake ordered all hands on deck to reinforce the planet's defenses. In the meantime, world leaders came together to discuss the future. Earth had become united in ways it had never been before. The war had forced nations to put aside their differences and work together. Now they had to ensure that the peace would last. The threat of the Federation still hung over their heads, but there was a newfound sense of hope and determination among Earth's people. The United Nations convened a special session, bringing together representatives from every corner of the globe. The discussions were tense, but there was an undeniable feeling of solidarity. The war had changed everything. The people of Earth were no longer divided by borders or ideologies. They were united by a common purpose: survival. "We faced the unimaginable," said the UN Secretary General. "We fought back the Federation, and we've shown that Earth will not be bullied. But we must prepare for what comes next. The Federation will not forget this defeat." Blake attended the session as a representative of the military, speaking with leaders from around the world. The message was clear. Earth had shown its strength, but it would need to continue working together to ensure that the Federation's threat was truly gone. A new era of cooperation had begun. Meanwhile, the Federation's retreat had not gone unnoticed. Alien ships began to appear at the outer edges of the solar system, making it clear that the Federation was not giving up. They were waiting, regrouping, preparing for their next move. Blake knew that this was only the beginning. But Earth had changed. The war had brought the planet together in a way that no one could have predicted. The once divided nations were now united by a shared purpose. The threat of the Federation had forged a new sense of unity and resilience that would not be easily broken. Back in space, the Federation was organizing its forces for a counterattack. But Earth was ready. The military had reinforced its defenses, and the people of Earth had rallied behind their cause. The Federation may have had the advantage in numbers, but humanity had the one thing that no alien empire could replicate: the unyielding will to survive. Blake stood at the command center, looking out over the planet he had fought to protect. The battle for Earth had been won, but the war was far from over. He knew the Federation would return, and he would be ready. Earth would stand strong. The people of Earth had proven that no force in the galaxy could break their spirit. "We'll be ready," Blake whispered to himself. "We won't let them take our home." As days turned into weeks, Earth's military continued to fortify its defenses, knowing that the Federation's next move could come at any moment. The victory, though monumental, was not enough to ease the tension that gripped the world. The war was far from over. The galaxy's most powerful empire had been temporarily pushed back, but they were regrouping, and Earth had no illusions about their relentless drive for domination. General Blake and his team sat around a large conference table in the newly fortified command center. The walls were lined with advanced technology, and the room hummed with activity. Earth's defenses had been strengthened, but the Federation's ships were still a formidable threat. Blake's mind was focused, sharp as ever. They had won the battle, but what about the war? "We've received intelligence," Captain Hayes began, his voice steady. "The Federation is rallying their forces on the outer rim. Their flagship is being repaired, and they're preparing to launch another assault." Blake nodded, his face grim. "So we can expect them to come back stronger?" "Yes, sir," Hayes replied. "They've learned from their defeat, but we've learned too. We know their tactics and we know their weaknesses." Blake stared at the holographic map of the galaxy displayed in front of him. The Federation was spread across vast regions, but now Earth was no longer an isolated planet. It had become a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for countless other worlds that had suffered under the Federation's rule. Earth had shown that a smaller, determined force could stand up to the greatest empire the galaxy had ever known, and that had sent shockwaves through the galaxy. "The key now is to strike before they have time to fully regroup," Blake said, turning to the rest of the council. "We'll need to launch a counteroffensive." The room was silent for a moment, each person weighing the risk of such a bold move. It wasn't just about Earth's survival anymore. The entire galaxy was watching, and the outcome of the next battle would determine whether or not humanity would remain free. "We need to gather allies," the UN Secretary General suggested. "The Federation's tyranny has affected many worlds. If we can unite them, we'll have a fighting chance." Blake agreed. "Earth's victory has shown the galaxy that we are not easy targets. If we can convince other worlds to join us, we could build a coalition strong enough to challenge the Federation." The plan was set into motion. Earth's leaders reached out to nearby planets, offering support to those who had long been oppressed by the Federation. Slowly but surely, a new alliance began to form. Worlds that had been hesitant to stand up against the Federation's might were now seeking Earth's guidance, and Blake's team worked tirelessly to ensure that each planet had the resources and training it needed to defend itself. Meanwhile, the Federation's spies had been watching. They knew that Earth was preparing for something big, but they underestimated the resolve of humanity. Their attacks on Earth had stirred something within the people of the planet, an unyielding determination to protect their home and their newfound allies. Weeks turned into months as preparations were made. Earth's military forces, now bolstered by an alliance of various planets, were ready to launch the counteroffensive. The Federation, although formidable, was now facing the united front. Blake stood once again in the command center, surrounded by his officers. He knew that the coming battle would not be easy. The Federation had resources and technology that Earth could only dream of, but Earth's greatest strength was something the Federation could never understand: the human spirit. It was unbreakable, no matter how powerful the enemy. "We've made history," Blake said, his voice carrying a sense of pride. "But now we fight for our future, for the future of all those who wish to live in peace." As Earth's fleet set off for the Outer Rim, where the Federation had regrouped, Blake's heart beat with anticipation. The battle ahead would be the final test of Earth's resolve. But this time, they wouldn't be fighting alone. They had allies, and they had hope. The Federation's flagship loomed ahead, its massive silhouette dominating the dark expanse of space. It was a force to be reckoned with, but the fleet that had gathered under Earth's banner was determined. Blake's fingers tightened around the control panel. This was it, the moment they had all been waiting for. The fleet engaged. The battle was fierce, a clash of titanic proportions. The Federation's ships, though powerful, were met with unrelenting resistance. Earth's forces fought with everything they had, their ships darting through space with precision, their weapons striking true. Blake's voice rang out over the comms. "Hold your ground. We've come too far to lose now." The Federation flagship trembled as its shields were slowly but surely worn down. Blake's heart raced as he watched the battle unfold. Every shot, every maneuver, every life lost had led to this moment. Earth had been the underdog, but now it stood as the hope of the galaxy. With one final coordinated strike, Earth's forces shattered the Federation's defenses. The flagship fell, and with it, the Federation's dream of domination. It was over. The galaxy was forever changed. Earth had not only survived the war, but it had emerged as a symbol of hope and resilience. The Federation was defeated, and a new era of peace began. And as Blake looked out over the stars, he knew that Earth had proven to the universe that no matter the odds, humanity would always rise to defend its home.